Hey Disco fans, Dan Gunther here with another comment response video, this time responding to your comments from last week's review of the Season 1 finale of Discovery, Will You Take My Hand? Reviews were a bit mixed on the season finale. There were some people who didn't appreciate it as much as others, and it's really interesting to see your thoughts. So let's dive into those now. First off, Silver Surfer writes, I was generally disappointed that the Klingons was not emphasized more. All they did occurred behind closed curtains, a threat that ended very abruptly, as did the Terran Empire. The lack of ship-to-ship battles also bothered me. No overwhelming strategy was used like Picard's in Star Trek Nemesis. Instead, we get an emo conversation between Burnham and Ash. Overall, the season was good, but lacks rewatchability. I have to disagree a little bit there. I understand that maybe there would have been some appreciation of some big special effects, whiz-bang battle kind of thing. But I do like, personally, the Star Trek ending to this. I love that it's settled through more of a diplomatic type of solution rather than through a big epic battle. But I also understand the desire for something a little bit flashier. Also, I disagree about the rewatchability. I have actually rewatched season 1 while during the mid-season break. I rewatched the first half, and I've since rewatched the second half as well. And I'm actually looking forward to rewatching it again. But that's just, again, personal opinion. People can have different opinions. I personally think this has a lot of rewatchability, and I really like being able to go back and pick out the Easter eggs and that sort of thing. Reese White has an interesting comment. I noticed a nice callback to the Vulcan hello on rewatching the finale. When Michael and Captain Giorgio are on the desert planet and the pilot firing down the well to free the water, saving the natives from drought. It is very similar to the scene with Emperor Giorgio and Michael at the well in the shrine on Kronos after dropping down the explosive. I'm guessing this parallel was probably intentional, showing what Starfleet was and what it is in danger of becoming due to their willingness to sacrifice their ethics and morals in a time of war. Oh, that's a really great call. I hadn't caught that. But yeah, definitely a lot of parallels between those two scenes. Some interesting convergences with the imagery there. So good call. I hadn't caught that one. That's excellent. Joaquin de Torres says, I personally don't think they will make it to Vulcan to pick up a new captain. I think they will have to deal with the Enterprise's emergency that may take them to another place entirely. I believe we are going to see Spock because the dynamic of Spock, Burnham, and Sarek will be too mouth-watering to ignore. You can't just not see Spock. In Desperate Hours by David Mack, both Spock and Burnham work together to solve a planet-ending crisis, and they discover their loves and hate for Sarek. The dynamic is just too good. They can't leave us hanging. Everyone knows Spock serves with Pike. I hope they choose an actor who looks and acts so much like Spock that it makes us forget Zachary Quinto. PJ's channel has some thoughts on casting as well. He suggests Anson Mount as Captain Pike. I'm not familiar myself, so I'm just going to pull up a picture here and take a look. Yeah, I could see it. Definitely some similarities to Jeffrey Hunter with the eyes. And yeah, I could see this guy playing Captain Pike. Interesting thought. Mike Deacon says, I thoroughly enjoyed the first season. For me, they could have carried on with the Klingon War into season 2. There was no need to wrap it up. It would have been interesting to see how L'Rell unified the houses through the next season. I agree with that. I would have liked to see more with L'Rell and how she kind of unifies the houses there. I feel like the wrap-up was a little bit too quick with regards to the end of the war, and, you know, L'Rell has the bomb control and says, I can blow up the planet, and the Klingons are like, oh yeah, okay, we should follow you. I mean, maybe we will get some follow-up with that. Maybe we will see how L'Rell deals with this in season 2, but for me, it was just too quick of a wrap-up in season 1. I feel like they had, you know, this idea that they had to end the war by the end of season 1 and move on to new things by season 2, which I don't necessarily disagree with, but it left us with a very rushed finale, which I think in some ways is a little unfortunate. SC writes, I will say my initial reaction was actually let down, as it was somewhat implied that we were going to get an epic battle for supremacy. But upon further review, they definitely went a more Trek-like route, for both good and bad of the overall episode. Things get wrapped up a bit too conveniently like a classic Trek episode, and they've left some open strings to pull for season 2 in Discovery fashion. And please let a Vulcan Expeditionary Group ship have found Prime Lorca to be the Disco's new captain. But all is forgiven with the ending. Yeah, I don't know if I want to see Lorca as the captain, but I do definitely want to see Lorca again. I hope that Jason Isaacs does come back as Prime Lorca at some point. That would be really great to see. I definitely agree with the ending being very Trek-like. Again, like I've said, I like that there's no big battle that ends this war, that it's kind of more of a diplomatic solution. Tara Steiner says, were you as disappointed as me when you didn't see the Baylock image at the end of the credits? That's a good point. With the classic Trek theme over the end of the episode, that would have been a nice touch. Another nice touch would have been the Clint Howard character that was played in this episode. The Orion at the end would have been a nice little homage, as well as I've seen people online say maybe an image of Saru, because he's kind of got that alien elongated face-esque look to him. Would have been a nice little nod of the hat to the original series as well. And finally, Trek on the Tube says, well, I can certainly say I disagree with everything, but good review nonetheless. Well, thanks, Trek on the Tube. By the way, for anyone out there who's looking for a really great Star Trek channel, another great Star Trek channel, if I may say so myself, Trek on the Tube is a great channel. You should check that out. He does some really interesting videos. My favorite videos of his are where he goes through each episode of Discovery and picks out the Easter eggs and the references in them. And he's really good about finding a lot of those things that other people have missed. So go check that out. Trek on the Tube on YouTube. Go subscribe to him and tell him Kertrats Productions sent you. That's a great channel and I highly recommend you check it out. Well, thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate all the comments and I really like being able to respond to them like this. If you have any comments about your predictions for season 2, please leave them in the comments below. I'd love to see them. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram if you'd like to connect outside of YouTube. And thank you to the Patreon supporters for making this video possible. Even though Discovery is done, I have plans for future videos going forward. So with that in mind, I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, as always, live long and prosper.